Good morning, I'm Paul Skirpsky, and welcome to the GovCon365 Snacktime Snippet presentation. Today we're going to talk a little bit about processing expense reports inside of Dynamics 365 Business Central for government contractors. In a previous presentation, we talked a little bit about the interface, and you can see from this user's homepage, they can quickly get into expense reports. We're going to go ahead and launch our expense reporting tool, and we'll start the process of creating a new expense document. So the first thing would be to give a description to the expense report. In this case, we'll say that this is a trip to client in Alabama. If I received an advance, this would give me the ability to put in that advance amount. What was the period that I traveled? In this case, I traveled from the 1st of May, and we'll say the trip ended on the 6th. One of the things that you're able to do in terms of shortcuts is that anytime you're entering a date, if you just enter in the actual date, it'll pull in the month, current month and year. So if I put 6 in there, it knows that I'm in May of 2020, and we're looking for, in this case, May 6th. So there's several other shortcuts like that that makes it easy for a user to be able to process documents with some quick keystrokes. And then I can go down to the body. In this case, the first thing that started this trip was, and we had some airfare. So I'd choose the actual project that we're working under, and then I would choose the expense code. One of the things you remember during one of our earlier presentations is the system filters out these WBS codes based on what's a valid charge for an expense report, a timesheet, or a purchase order or purchase requisition. So in this case, it's just showing me expense type documents, or expense type codes. Then I would choose the type of expense. We'll go ahead and search for airfare and select that airfare code. It defaults it for me to the employee card. But maybe if I use the company credit card for my travel, I'll choose company, and then I'm just going to give a description to the expense. So we'll just say a flight from IAD. If it was mileage, I can put in the distance. I'll just put in the amount of that expense, and that's as simple, for a user to record a particular expense on their expense report. If they had any kind of receipt documents, they could actually attach that document to the report. So I can put any kind of attachment against the expense report. In this case, on that trip to Alabama, I had more than just the airfare, right? So in my example, I'm going to leverage the per diem wizard as a way to record my hotel and then meals and incidentals. So I'll click on my per diem wizard. The first thing it asks me for is, what is the state that I'm traveling to? I can either select from the list, or if I type it in, it'll just default it for me. And we'll choose the destination, and then also the county where we stayed, in this case, Henry County. The 1st to the 6th is the full period of the expense report, but if I went to multiple locations, I could reduce my travel and say that the 1st to the 4th maybe was one location, then the 4th to the 6th was a second. And that way it can handle our meals and incidentals at 75% for the first day and last day of your trip. Once I click next, it's going to show me my grid for meals and incidentals. In case maybe the client provided lunch, I could uncheck that. And I would just choose the job that this particular transaction was for. As I start to type, I can either type in the number or the description. It'll filter by either of them. So I'm just going to choose the job, choose that WBS code, and again, same concept in terms of the type of expense. So we'll just say that lodging goes to the lodging code, meals and incidentals to the meals code, and these just point to GL accounts. We just use codes as a way that it makes it easier for the employee. They don't need to think, what is the code for lodging? They just type in lodging. Click next. You can see it shows me what my lodging ceiling is. So I'd enter my actual expenses there. Click finish. Then it's going to add in there for me to my initial flight, that first and last day meals at 75%, lodging and lodging tax. Once I complete it, I would just go ahead and hit my submit button, and this would start that whole workflow approval process. So, whoever is going to approve this expense report would get notified, and they could go into their expense or any kind of approval screen. So I just go to my approval documents, and it would show me everything that needs to get approved. So in this case, I do have someone's expense report that needs to be approved, and I can go ahead and come in, I can open it up, approve it, reject it. If I'm going to delegate my expense approvals, I can do that, or also approve it on behalf of somebody else. So if I became the delegate, just a quick way for a user to perform those functions. So that gives you a little idea in terms of entering an expense report from your desktop. In another video, we're going to talk about the mobile app and how you can actually submit expense reports or time or PTO requests from the mobile app.
Oh, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
How would you handle credit card transactions? Are you able to import them?
Great question, Mark. So there's really three ways to record expense reports. The first is what we just showed, which is open up an expense report and start to process it. Two was from the mobile device, and then our third option is, from our trip expense list, we have the ability to import charges in. So you can go to your Visa or Amex card, download it into a CSV, then we've got an upload function. Once you upload it, these bottom transactions, give you an idea of what would come through, which would be the date, a description of the expense, and the amount for the expense. From that point, we've got a really simple function that lets you take those expenses and either spread them across multiple projects, or you can just say that they're all for one project. So in this case, if I say that these two transactions, the 22nd to the 4th, were for one job, I would just tell the system from 4/22 through, we'll put the 5th, these expenses are for a particular job. And we'll just use the same project we used earlier, which was our cyber threat detection project. Click next, and then that's able to code them quickly for me. Then I just move them over to my expense report. So really, three simple ways to record expenses, all of them not only compliant with DCA, DCMA, but also simple for an end user to be able to perform that function without having to go in and out of screens and multiple functions. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how Microsoft Dynamics leverages expense reports. Hope you enjoyed this little snippet during your busy day. Thank you.